Academica Media. From Academica Media Studios in Miami, Florida, it's Big Ideas in Education, a weekly recap of inspiration and innovation in your schools.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Big Ideas in Education. I am your host, Dr. Sarah Boulos from Somerset Academy Schools, joined, of course, by my co-host, Ryan Kairalla of Doral College. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Sarah. Great to be chatting with you.
Great to be chatting with you, too. What do you have for us today?
Love this story, Sarah. The We Are Teachers blog had a terrific post last week. They had teachers from around the country share stories about times when an administrator did something for them that they were grateful for. Just a lot of really cute little stories here. And in sharing these stories, we start to see some common threads emerge about what makes admins effective in the eyes of educators. For example, the teachers in the article were quick to celebrate administrators who can see the best in their teachers, even when the teachers themselves couldn't. One grateful teacher wrote, quote, "My principal once told me that even on a bad day, my students were benefiting because I was a natural teacher." I'll never forget it, right? I knew as like a teacher, like you're going to hear these and just like vicariously smile through each one. These are great.
I'm going to melt.
And the teacher says here at the end, "I'll never forget that story and often share it with colleagues who are feeling overwhelmed." A little paying it forward. You got to love that. Other teachers were thankful for admins who knew when the teacher needed a little grace or even a little break. Another quote, "My principal once saw me upset in my class, came in and said, 'I'd love to hang out with your kids for a bit. Why don't you go take a break?' And I just miscarried that week and he knew I was struggling." Another teacher said, quote, "My assistant principal interrupted me explaining my situation with some tough parents that year by saying, 'Hold on a minute. You know you're a great teacher, right? Please don't let this year make you feel otherwise.'" I love it. Perhaps the group of administrators that teachers love the most are the ones who lead by example. Quote, "I had a principal who came into my class 25 minutes a week. He taught whatever I was teaching. He said the only way to get a true picture of the kids was to see them interact in the classroom. Best principal ever." And one of the threads that I see in a lot of these quotes, Sarah, is something that I hear effective principals tell me all the time, which is the more effective a principal, the less time they're spending in their office. They're moving around. They're roaming the school. They're seeing teachers in their element, and they're ready to lend a helping hand at any given time and make sure that their teachers are encouraged and motivated. And when they need a break, give them a break.
Yeah, I mean, some of those, you got me cutting onions over here. I'm getting a little misty. That's really very, very kind and sweet. I think it brought me back to something that I think when I was a younger teacher, I don't want to say young, right? Still got some youth in me. But when I was an early teacher, I remember my principal, I was maybe a week or two before school started, and I was bringing things in to set up my classroom. At the time, my younger brother was a teenager. He was in high school, and he was helping me set up my classroom, bringing things from the car to the classroom. And I don't know if some of you don't know, but during the summer, there are often kids who are at the school, if there's like football practice or band practice, or some kids volunteer, or, the kids of the teachers there. So there are often kids at the school in the summer, not necessarily in summer school, but just at the school. And the principal, I was from a distance. I saw him see my brother and kind of have a face like, I'm not sure if I know who this kid is, and recognize that he might be a new student, right? So he started talking to my brother as though he was going to be a new student. And something really struck me about, it's really difficult, for a teacher to go into a situation and feel like their principal doesn't know their kids and doesn't know what they're going through, right? And the fact that he took the time and he was talking to my brother and knew that that wasn't one of his students, right? Knew his kids, knew the kids in the school. It really made me feel like I've got somebody on my team who knows what I'm going through. And it's just such a small moment. And I've shared that with that principal since then. And he's always like, that's not such a great moment. But to me, it meant a lot. And I think that's what a lot of these stories are saying is they need to feel seen, they need to feel like there's someone on their side. And teachers are going through a lot. So to have an administrator who has that with itness to see, hey, this person needs something from me, whether it's taking some time in their class or giving them a break or just being a sounding board and recognizing that sometimes you need a little bit of encouragement because there's a lot of things that bring you down, and hearing some words of appreciation really make a big deal. I love that they said even on your worst day your students are lucky to have you. Oh my goodness, that's such a generous thing to say to someone who may be feeling down and needs some encouragement.
Absolutely. To me, I was blown away by all of these stories because of how small of a gesture
Yeah.
could make such a big impact. I think leaders, when they take on a new leadership position, whether it's a school leader or any kind of leader, you're immediately drawn to what are the big changes I can make? What are the big
Right.
steps I can take? What are the big policies? Because that's where the big change happens. But what this story shows is it's not just the big changes, it's the little things that you do every single day that make you an effective leader. And that's doubly so on the school site. If you want to be effective as a school administrator, if you want to make an impact in the eyes of your teachers and your staff, it's the little things every day. It's the small quotes. It's the tiny bits of encouragement and the little steps to make things a little bit easier for your teachers. Doing that every day, letting those things compound. That's where you see success happen. And what incredible stories to be enjoying and reading here.
It really is, and it's funny you said that because like I said, it was such a small moment for it to make such a big impact to me, but that's really what it is those moments of humanity I think that teachers are seeking out where somebody is showing them that, I know I've said it before, but teaching can be really isolating. When you're in
Mm.
your classroom and you're the only adult in the room most of the time, and you sometimes are bombarded with information, all these messages that are telling you you're wrong, you're not doing this right, you're not doing enough, you're not m- getting your message across, you're not fill in the blank. For another person to bring that lifeline to you and say, you are enough and you're doing a great job, it's so needed and it's so impactful.
No question. Now, speaking of moments of great humanity, Sarah, I think your story is actually a pretty terrific example of that.
Yeah, we often talk about a lot of non academic barriers that can prevent students from being successful in school. If a school is operating in a low income area, for example, those barriers can include food insecurity or concerns about clothing. For some, they might include access to mental health services. Well, a program serving students in St. Johns County, right here in Florida, has taken a community partnership based approach to bringing those barriers down, and it's paying off big time. These community partnership programs through the Children's Home Society of Florida launched at both Webster Elementary and Southwoods Elementary School in 2017. They help to fill in some of the gaps in communities that serve a higher than average number of low income and at risk families. The idea is to take care of all these extra things so that when the kids get to school, they can focus on learning, said Bethany Groves, principal of Webster Elementary School. With the help of organizational and business partners across the county, Webster operates a resource center on campus which does everything from provide clothing, food, and supplies to offering free health care through Flagler Health Plus and tutoring and counseling for both students and adults in the community. In addition, Grove believes the program has helped to reduce the stigma for parents or children in asking for the help they need, be it in the school setting or at home. Unfortunately, many of our students are in poverty or facing difficulties and challenges, Grove said. Chris Stone, director of the program at Southwoods, agreed. What we do here for these children and their families is really a community effort. Our partners, the St. Johns County School District, the Children's Home Society, St. Johns River State College, and Flagler Health Plus, all work together to make the lives of these children better, said Stone. And the results of this program are astounding. For example, Webster students demonstrated a 46% increase in learning gains in statewide testing in math from 21% in 2018 to 67% in 2021. And remember, folks, that's during the pandemic. Students who
Wow.
participated in after-school tutoring saw a 34% increase in reading gains. That's why Groves, for one, believes this investment its partners make in the program is so important to the community as a whole. When Webster thrives, the west side of St. Augustine thrives. And when St. Augustine thrives, St. John County thrives, said Groves. This sounds like such an incredible partnership and a really, I mean, even if you're just like a bottom line kind of person and you're thinking, what is this doing for the kids in school? Unbelievable growth for those students. It's really quite remarkable.
I am so thrilled to hear that. And it doesn't surprise me in the least, Sarah, that one of the organizations that you mentioned there that was taking part was Children's Home Society. Fantastic organization here in Florida. I was a volunteer guardian at Lightham when I was in college and had the opportunity to interact with that group a lot as they were helping a lot of at-risk kids. And glad to have them part of this. And just, I mean, what a great example of the power of wraparound services to ensure that students are in the best position to achieve academic outcomes. How often do we talk about Maslow before Bloom around here? This is a terrific example of that. And it's creating a lot of positive outcomes. And what you mentioned there about achieving these gains in the pandemic, I thought was particularly instructive. I was reading an article last week about how some of the data suggesting that, contrary to a lot of the conventional wisdom, that shifting to virtual education was the primary reason why we're seeing decreases in learning gains during the pandemic. What the data actually seems to suggest is not that it was the shift to virtual, it was just that the disruption in people's lives caused by the pandemic and lockdowns was just affecting certain at-risk populations who are, had a, greater technological gaps, greater gaps in their personal life, and just getting everything that they usually get from schools. And those things got exacerbated due to the pandemic. And so it doesn't surprise me that an initiative that prioritizes making sure that people get that external support system, and that would help close these gaps and allow these students to achieve great learning outcomes. So cool.
That's a really interesting perspective. I'd be interested to see that that study, that article, because it's true. A lot of what we were talking about back at the beginning of lockdown and quarantine was, what are we going to do about kids who, some of them, their only meal that they eat that day are the meals that they get at school, right? They have breakfast and lunch at school. And then sometimes they have breakfast, lunch, and snack if we have those community resources. And then there's not a guarantee that they eat the rest of the day. And some of the other services that schools just provide so that families can survive, I think they were seen more, that spotlight was put on them because of things like this, where we were seeing how much the school building serves as, right? Not just the educational center of a community, but really all of these other things. So providing these services, as you mentioned, I mean, these wraparound services are providing so much. And talk about, what you were mentioning earlier, what little things can do for
things,
people.
yeah.
I mean, some of the stories that they shared where they were asking kids, what does this program bring them that they're appreciative of? Some of the answers were like socks. That's what, I mean, it's so humbling to hear from a third grader. They were so excited because they were able to get socks. And that's the barrier that was keeping them from feeling safe at school or comfortable, right? Because they were just not adequately clothed. They don't have what they need. So I don't know. It hit me in so many areas to hear this. And I'm really excited that this program is successful. I'm going to link it, but there's so much more to this. As I mentioned, there's all of these different community partnerships, but they're also being provided grants through the University of Central Florida, so that if any of these partnerships are not able to meet, their financial pledge to keep the program going, they can continue it. So, I mean, there's just a lot going on here, and I hope that this becomes, more commonplace and more available to families and communities. Well, thanks everyone for being with us this week. We'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you. If you'd like to reach out to us using the hashtag Big Ideas in Education or at Academica Media, give us a shout out. Let us know what you think. And we'll see you next week.
The views expressed on the preceding program have been those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Academica, its clients, staff, affiliates, or advertisers.